Thank you for joining us for another HealthTruthLife video here. Glad to have you guys back. Today we're going to be going over, we're starting intake on our HealthTruthLife matrix here, and we're going over food and hydration.
Ooh.
So there's a lot that goes into this one.
Daunting.
It is.
Wow.
But a very big one, a very vital, important part of our overall health and wellness. I'm going to go ahead. You start.
Okay, I'll start. That was kind of funny though, actually.
Yeah.
We're just going to think, okay, like what the three questions, right? What are the
Yeah.
three questions that we kind of pointed out in the beginning are, what am I putting in my mouth? What am I allowing in my mind? And what am I doing with my body?
Yeah.
So this encompasses like that first question hugely.
Yeah.
What am I putting in my mouth?
Yeah.
Food, hydration being the predominant things. Of course, medications and supplements we'll talk about next week. But yes, man, this is massive.
And this is why, just as food causes chronic disease, it can be the most powerful cure. And that's a quote from Hippocrates.
The father of medicine, the father of modern medicine, right?
So it can be another quote that I've heard, the way I've heard it, I'm not sure who said this one, but food is either medicine or it's poison. It's either bringing life or death. It's that big, has that big of an impact in our lives. Right.
Massive impact.
So it's huge, lot to dig into and unpack here, but let's do it.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of simplify things, I think Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, had a quote regarding nutrition that he put out years ago. And I think it simplifies a lot of things because, as I kind of say in this matrix concept sheet, which again will be available below, this is matrix concept sheet number 5. It'll be below in the description, and you can click on it, download it, use it as you'd like. But his quote was, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. And so again, there's so much controversy out there. What diet to follow, right? Is the Mediterranean diet, the vegetarian diet, a plant-based diet, an animal-based diet, a carnivore type diet, a keto diet, and they've got all these proprietary dietary programs, that are out there, the multi-level marketing programs, and many of them have benefits. The point is, what should people follow with respect to what they're eating? It's very complicated. It's complicated for me, and I was just gonna, told you earlier that I listened to a debate last night of a vegan, so 100% plant-based vegan naturopathic doctor and an MD surgeon, I believe, who then now believes in the carnivore diet. And they both are seeing patients. They're both seeing health improve with patients. They're both seeing some vitality in patients. And so the point is, it does create controversy. Do I go carnivore? Do I go holistically plant-based? Do I do a mix? Gosh, it's challenging. Tell me about the patient, though, you talked to. Was that today or yesterday? Not one of our patients, but someone that you ran into.
Yesterday, I went to Publix to get a salad. I get a salad a couple times a week there.
Sorry, not a patient, but an individual.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I brought up, she was talking about the salad she was making me and how it looked really good. And then she started opening up about how she's recently made some changes to her diet. And she cut gluten, basically, cut pasta, cut bread. She cut back on fast food. She used to be a fast food junkie. She cut back on sodas. She would drink a ton of sugary sodas.
How many do you know a day?
She didn't tell me the amount, but she said a lot. She said a lot of sodas a day. And then she started eating more natural foods. She was talking about eating more salads. She would eat a lot less, and then with more time in between meals. Healthy snacks, she said. She stopped chips and candy and all these other things.
Did she describe what snacks she does?
She didn't go into detail about
just curious,
But basically, within a year, she said she had lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
She felt night and day different. She said so much better. A lot more energy, and just felt a lot healthier overall. And I just thought, man, that's such a good example. Somebody I was talking to just yesterday of how making these simple changes can have such a profound impact in your life. And she was smiling ear to ear as she's telling me this. You could tell that it was lifting her spirit and making her feel so much better. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I want to point out that this discussion right now, and also the information on the food matrix sheet, is not prescriptive. I don't have a diet that I push on patients or I prescribe for patients. I try and work with patients to say, hey, what works best for you? We have some patients that do a plant-based diet. We have some patients that do more carnivore and/or paleo type diet. And I will say that they're, the common denominator though with a lot of those is less processed food, more real food, less simple sugars for sure, right? And so that's a big part of it. And I would say going further, you want to get away from a lot of the seed oils, the vegetable oils. You want to get good fats. So good fats meaning olive oil, olives, nuts and seeds, fatty fish, things like that have good fats in it. Higher omega-3 ratios than omega-6, and making sure you're getting a balance. Usually foods have a higher omega-6 than omega-3 ratio, but the difference in that ratio can be shrunken or I guess diminished with higher quality food. So grass-fed beef, for example, has a higher proportion of omega-3s than non-grass-fed beef. So just one example that we'll talk about, we do talk about in this food matrix concept. But you want to get good fats. You also want to get good proteins, and proteins that build you up, give you vitality, the ability to maintain strength, muscle mass, and energy. And overall, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to kind of hit on this quote that you had from Greg Glassman about eating meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Another way that I've heard it too is, we're created by a living God. We are living beings, and we're created to eat living food. So if you look at what we're predominantly, what are the healthier options to eat? It's things that are alive, like the plants and the animals that are roaming the earth. And so we receive life from life. Like, it's an easy way to think about it and look at it.
So an Oreo doesn't have life in it?
There's not much life in that.
Wouldn't it be nice if an Oreo had life in it, man? That was one of my big, oh man, I loved Oreos.
I buried one the other day to see if an Oreo tree would grow.
Did you really?
No, I didn't. But it didn't happen,
Okay.
There's no Oreo tree.
Your kids or my kids are probably
exactly.
trying to do. Yeah.
Oreo seed.
Man, so, but yeah, there's a lot to the food concept for sure. It's very complicated. It's complicated for us in healthcare. So we know it's got to be complicated for individuals and patients.
But I think getting back to where we were just at with looking at being mindful of what you're putting in your mouth, what you're consuming. If you're eating these live, healthier things, then obviously it's going to bring life and more energy and vitality. If you're consuming more of the sugary, processed, fake things that are out there, you're going to see the negative, aspects of that. You're going to have less health and more disease, from that. And so too, we talked about this earlier, but looking at food also, like it's a gift. It's something that is given to us, from God. He's providing it for us. And so seeing it as a gift, so being grateful and thankful for it. So a practice that we do as Christians, as believers, is we take the time before our meals and we say thank you. Like, we pray and we thank God for providing it. And I think this will help you be more mindful of, I've caught myself, it's funny, like if I'm in the middle of praying for a greasy burger and french fries and a giant milkshake, you're like, God bless this food in my body. I'm like, he can work miracles, but so just praying to being mindful, it helps you, kind of think more about what you're
discern.
Exactly.
To know that, hey, you have a role in your health. God's got a role in your health, but tell you what, be logical and common sense driven with respect to what you're eating, because you may be fueling your own disease. And if you're not being encouraged to change your diet by your clinician, physician, practitioner, what have you, man, seek guidance from someone. Seek guidance from a friend or a nutritionist or a physician or somebody who is empowering other people. And do your homework, see what works for you, because like I said, there's individuality with respect to food and how certain people respond to certain foods. Many people don't tolerate grains, and I know that I try to get people off of grains. Some people tolerate them better than others. Some people don't tolerate raw vegetables or vegetables in general. They have more challenge with vegetables because they lack digestive enzymes, or they may have a gut microbiome that's not in a balance to allow them to tolerate certain types of food. So that's where nuance comes in with respect to diet. So again, individual approach is very beneficial. Elimination diets work well for patients where they would say cut certain things that are highly oftentimes sensitive to patients, and then you add back those foods that may be sensitive to a patient. And if a patient's adding back one food at a time and they all of a sudden get bloating, brain fog, lack of energy, then you're like, okay, well, that food right there is probably playing a role. So these are tools that can be utilized to try and tease out what may work best for patients, you know?
Yeah. Another thing I think I'd like to discuss is, we talked about this earlier as well, is we live in such a fast-paced society. People are busy going from meetings to meetings and, you know, school events, sports. It seems like we're just trying to consume food.
Right.
You know, we're in a hurry. So what are the options when you're in a hurry? You go to fast food. You hit up the fast food places after a ball game or after a school event. And so we're consuming more and more of these foods that are destroying us.
Good for you.
Yeah.
The thing is, there are foods at these places, fast food, that you can get. I would say go without a bun. Don't eat the bun, right? I would not get the fried food. Like, say, for example, if it's Chick-fil-A, get grilled chicken, you know? Get a salad with grilled chicken as opposed to a heavy sandwich that's breaded with a bun. You know, you're going to get much less simple carbs, less of the inflammatory starch that's found in the bun and also in the breading. It's just kind of, you know, some options.
And that goes back to the being mindful of what you're consuming, you know? Because, you're right. There all are alternatives there available. You know, but a lot of people do tend to go towards the burgers and the fries and, you know, the unhealthier options. So I would encourage everyone, if you can, it's tough, I know sometimes, but slow down. Take the time to, create these meals. It's neat too, like cooking, if you take the time to slow down and do it, like it's a bonding experience, or it can be with you and your spouse or you and your kids. And like, it can become a fun like thing to do together, you know? And so, if you're taking the time to slow down and prepare these meals, chop actual food, you know, if you're cutting vegetables and fruits and your meat, you know, you're more apt to be eating, you know, you're eating a healthier diet if you're slowing down and doing those things, rather than throwing a tray of fries and fried chicken, you know, into the oven. Then you've got
or fried Oreos.
Yeah, exactly. So you just got to be mindful of those things, you know.
And then hydration next.
It's huge. You know, we all know that we need to be drinking more water. We're drinking a lot of other things. It's funny, the lady that I talked to yesterday was saying she consumes soda. She didn't drink any water. She was saying she just drinks sodas, you know? And so if you think about that, man, it's terrible. So we have on here, on our the Matrix concept sheet, basically it says, it usually equates to about 64 to 100 ounces daily, depending on level of activity and humidity. So
it's a good starting point, you know? And so our body typically will take care of excess water by peeing it out. Now, of course, if you have kidney disease, liver disease, heart disease, certainly talk with your doctor about your hydration. But I would presume, and I know that there's some pretty good information out there, that many people are chronically dehydrated. They're not getting enough fluids. Now, especially with activity, humidity, sweating, and caffeine, which dehydrates, all of that requires or makes a person get or need to get more water. And so I certainly am recommending, hey, have a water bottle. That's one tool you can have, a stainless steel or glass water bottle that can allow you to always have water at your fingertips and that you can fill up a few times a day. And if you got a 30-ounce water bottle, drink that 3 times a day, that's 90 ounces of water. Start with that and then see if you don't feel better, less headaches, more energy, more vitality. And again, it's just one thing, right? But then talking about alcohol, we also do recommend cutting or completely avoiding alcohol. Any man particularly that comes in the Middle Ages or in his Middle Ages, not the Middle Ages, but you know, that has vitality issues, testosterone issues, strength issues, libido issues, I do say first thing they cut or should cut, alcohol. Cut it all out and see if you don't feel better in a week. Plus, then there's many other things to do as we do with patients. But that's first step right there. I think some of the recommendations that have been out there by some of the medical organizations is 1 to 2 drinks a night for a man and 0 to 1 drinks a night for a woman can be healthy. And man, I think that's actually too much, in my opinion. I don't think drinking every night is healthy. I think it's actually not healthy. I think 1 to 2 drinks a week is probably more in line with what would be optimum. And of course, completely avoiding alcohol if you're going through a health trial, or health issue that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I know there's a lot on here, a lot to discuss. Yeah, I think some of the main things we discussed already, though. Yeah, being mindful of what you're consuming, what you're putting in your body. That's the main thing. Slow down. Yeah, think about things before. Yeah, when you're going grocery shopping, what do they say? Like, don't go when you're starving, like when you're hungry, because you're gonna end up
and truly hit the outskirts of the store.
The fruits, the vegetables, the meats, they're all on the outside.
Exactly.
You're right. Yeah.
And also, again, I said this isn't prescriptive. And I want to give grace. Look, I'm not perfect with my diet. This guy knows that. And I know you're not perfect with your diet. Yeah. I would say, though, stick to like an 80-20% or 80% 20% rule, where 80% of your food is pretty dialed in. Yeah. And then that gives you 20% for grace. And again, individuality. And times of, for example, 50th birthday party a few months ago, I didn't hold to my 1 to 2 drinks a week. But I gave myself grace, and I knew that I wouldn't be performing at as high of a level with my family, with my work, with my exercise routine. The next few days, I just gave myself grace for that. So the point is, again, this isn't prescriptive. This is a starting point, but it's certainly a discussion point. If you're not being empowered by your physician, nurse, practitioner, whoever's caring for you with respect to what you're eating, seek guidance from someone who will tease through these things with you, because food plays, I think, the predominant issue with our health. And it starts, again, like Jason mentioned, with mindfulness, with a thought of Thanksgiving, but also a thought of, hey, I want to be thinking about and discerning what is best for me.
That making that shift from just eating for pleasure or eating because you love whatever it is you're eating, to why am I eating this? What's the benefit?
Right.
Am I eating it to give me good fuel, good nutrients, protein, whatever you need? That shifts you to where you're like, you make better choices with your diet. So taking that simple step can go a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, this just provides us a simple kind of starting point with respect to food and hydration. We'll have a matrix concept sheet number 6 on medications and supplements next week. But as always, thank you. You'll see down below in the description a link to the food concept sheet that kind of talks about the things that we just discussed today. And as always, we appreciate y'all, and thank you.
Thank you, guys.